Hey guys, at the end, spoken label back in the house, and a lovely sunny afternoon on Sunday. Gorgeous today. Went for a walk in the woods this morning, and I come back absolutely fairly sweaty. And I was now going to get back to 10 o'clock in the morning as well. So renovating into the cool flat now and into the recording studio for spoken label. We're up to Wigan today. I'm on meeting with a wonderful lady today who I've known for I know certainly way before lockdown, about 5 or 6 years, and they've got a fantastic Natasha Tingle with us. Now, is it about 6 years I've known you for, Natasha? Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah,
We met just before the pandemic.
yeah, I knew it was. Yeah, you came down with obviously your friend Maria Byrne a couple of times to speak easy back then, and we've seen you since then. Obviously, now way past lockdown to our new home at Cholton and speak easy. And you blew me and Amanda and Steve away the last few times you've been there. Incredible writing as well, both occasions. I thought I've not spoken to you for ages. I thought we'll get you on today because you do so much as a writer. I want people today to hear exactly how much scope and much projects and how much should we say you're a lady, got your fingers in a lot of pies. Is that the best way of putting it?
That's a very good way of putting it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, but obviously, we want people to understand where you come from, your creativity first. So, tell us a bit about yourself and where all your writing and stuff came from originally.
Yeah, so I grew up in the South, Eastbourne and then Crawley. And so I'm from an Indian background and I have a lot of disabilities, including a lot of mental health problems. My creativity started as soon as the moment I could read and write, I was reading, I was writing. Um, and and it really helped with when I was 13, I started with psychosis, and I didn't want to tell anybody about it. And so the poetry really helped me process that. I didn't want to keep the poems in case someone found them. So we used to sign them off as postbox poet and put them in the post just as they were, no envelope or anything, just as a way to get them out of my hands. And I found that really cathartic. Um, since then, I mean, early years, like my primary school put two of my short stories in the library because they said they were that good. And it's just kind of carried on like that. When I went to university, I became president of the Poetry Society, and I did that for 3 years. And we put out two self-publications. We used to have weekly workshops. I was in communication with Benjamin Zephaniah in the early Birmingham spoken word scene, and a lot of our members would go to those spoken word events. Not me personally, but I just wasn't into it at that time. I got into it much later. The writing carried on and the workshops carried on as well. So afterwards, I started running, after uni, I ran community workshops. So I ran Pemberton Pens for a few years, which with that, we went into schools, we did workshops with them, we did showcases, and I ran Pemberton Spoken Word Festival for a couple of years. Unfortunately, the pandemic killed that one. Stanza as well, Stanza Wigan, which is more of an in the round rather than a performance thing. Notes with Natasha was something I ran at the Armed Forces HQ until quite recently. And that was aimed at helping veterans and non-veterans mix. And we had a lot of people with interesting life experiences who wanted to write their stories. So it was a bit of a delicate balancing act because you want people to feel safe to be able to tell you difficult things, but you don't want them to trigger one another, and you don't want to leave someone where you've opened a can of worms for them and they don't know how to keep themselves safe because they've been thinking about this thing. So I like my kind of workshop running skills really developed a lot doing all these types of things. And I used to run a lot of mental health groups and well-being groups as well, like self-help stuff. So the creativity kind of went back and forth, and the mental health skills went back and forth between all of those different community groups. Right now, the only community group I'm involved in is Lee Young Writers, which is aimed at secondary age kids, which it runs in Lee after school. So we've got a lovely group, and they've made so much progress. Really, really proud of them all.
Brilliant. Well, tell them in the case then, obviously, that's your current group then. Tell us about Lee Young Writers then. Obviously,
right.
What exactly are they doing then? Well, probably a good way to carry on.
Yeah, so it started years ago with Louise Fazackerley. She started a group called Inking, and my kids used to go, and then over the years that's changed. That used to be in Wigan, and then after the pandemic, Louise sort of started. So initially it was the very young age group, and as they got older, the group got older. And then with Lee Young Writers, she started with secondary age kids in Lee. And so she brought me on to help. And so we've got a group of 7 or 8 kids, and they write. The way we run the sessions is in 2 halves. The first half, we get them to do what we want. The second half, they will have a passion project that they carry on week by week. And if they run out of things they want to do, then that's where we help figure out what it is they really want to achieve and help them with that. And they all have different goals. They all have different writing styles and what they want to write. Some of them are really into comic writing. We've got a budding performance poet. We've got someone who writes amazing horror. So what they do is really quite varied. Some of them are really confident, and we've had them perform at public events before. We also have, like most of them have some kind of special need. It's not a group for people with special needs. That's just the way it's come out. But it means that we have autism in the group, we have ADHD in the group, we have a couple of people who are homeschooled, we have a couple of people who choose not to speak. So, like I said, the group's really varied. They had their showcase recently, and for the ones who are not willing to share their work, we get them involved in other ways. So one of them was doing the tech for us. It's really varied, but they've all developed in their writing, they've developed in their confidence. Some are so determined, despite all their barriers, to do really, really well. And it's just a privilege to help support their journey, really.
Good. Good. Now, so I think I'm always a believer in a good creative group like what you said there. It's if you're in a good creative environment, you thrive. Because I've run groups myself in the past before, and a good group is you're seeing the people progress and the way they study and done that. It's a good little tight group as well. It's like you do that, you get used to them after time. And have you found that yourself? And have you, where you look at people thinking, "My God, you've come a long way in the couple of years I've known you."
Absolutely. And some of it is that group is so encouraging of each other. They have this banter among them, and they'll, but at the same time, whenever they share their work, even the ones who you might have assumed wouldn't be so kind are so supportive of each other. It's so lovely to see it. And that kind of environment of anything goes, write about what you care about writing about, and will help you grow. That atmosphere is so conducive to good work and good progress.
Good. No, I agree. I agree with you completely with that. That's fantastic. No, really good to hear that, Natasha, indeed. So now obviously, like four. You've been telling me obviously about you've been involved in quite a lot of other groups as well. You told me one before about you've done ones that had big arts and craft connections as well, didn't you? So writing as well.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but mental health self-help groups are way more effective, like hundreds of times more effective than than NHS intervention, not intervention, but NHS support from like in terms of cost effectiveness. Having someone come out to you and check on you once a week is nowhere near as effective as someone coming out to you and helping you get to a self-help group where you can talk to other people who share your experience and can give you tips and strategies that have worked for them, and you feel like you're heard, you feel like people care and share about the things that you experience, they've experienced it too, and it's not strange then. You're not having to explain yourself all the time. You can say something weird like, oh, I was spinning in the corner. That's what I felt like doing. And everyone's like, yeah, been there. Rather than like, oh, what do you mean you were spinning in the corner? What does that mean? Do you know what I mean? So these kind of groups are really, really helpful. But a lot of the time, you need something to do, because it can be really hard to go to a group like that and just sit and be expected to join in talking, or if you're not in that space, you need an activity. And so bringing the creative stuff into that environment really, really helps, because if you're sat being taught origami, or you're sat being taught how to make a key ring, or you're given the opportunity to just splurge your thoughts onto the page, knowing that no one needs to see it, no one needs to read it, but if you want to share it, you can. So these things are really powerful. Creativity is so powerful in mental health. It's cathartic. It's art form. It's informative to others. And when I read mental health-based poems or physical health-based poems or anything like that, or share my experiences of say racism or any of that stuff, then it starts a conversation. And sometimes it starts conversations with people you really would not expect. And I've had that happen to me, where I've been in a pub and I've done a poem about mental health, and it seems like nobody's even listening. They're all just talking over it, and you're like a little bit disheartened, and you go to the bar and you realize the reason they're all talking over it is because they're sharing their experiences with each other about their own mental health. And it's like, oh, okay, that really wasn't what I thought was happening here. So yeah, I think it's really powerful, and there's so many facets to it that you can bring that creativity through the mental health, or you can bring the mental health through the creativity. It works both ways. I had some poems exhibited by Mind in their Mind Over Media event in Essex. I think Essex or Sussex. Essex. It was Kent. Yeah. And then Ordinary Glory. They're a theatre group for social change, and they're going to be putting on a performance about binge eating, and they want to have a care pack on every seat. And the care pack, so that's where I was involved as an artist facilitator with lived experience of mental health, helping other people create a box that with things that they thought were important in it for self-care. So they put in bubble wrap, they put in a bit of chocolate, they put in, we created a zine, so I was involved in helping them write the poetry. We had a comic artist involved as well. And those boxes are incredible. They have so much in them. And we had the Community Rail Partnership heard about this and picked up the project. And so we went to 5 different rail stations and gave out 500 self-care packs.
Wow.
And engaged people in conversations to share 60-second self-care tips. And some of the conversations we had were incredible. There was one lady who was taking a very sick child to a prison because she had to decide between taking the child to hospital and the one time in a week that she got to go and visit her partner in prison, and was trying to manage both things, was all over the place in her head. We had this conversation with her and I said, well, where do you find time for you? And she said, there isn't time for me. And she was really frantic. And I said, well, when you get on that train, other than your child needing some of your attention, that time can be for you. And we shared some of these tips with her, and she had time to do one of them with us then. And it was like floods of cathartic tears. You know, it was incredible. These things like really change people's lives.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you do sometimes where you're making waves into people's lives, and sometimes you don't even realize yourself till afterwards. You do
Yeah.
it's certainly like a lot of the adult poetry I started off with by chance. It was like, I wouldn't say I stumbled on that, I didn't. I stumbled into when I did my degree. I wasn't planning to do it at that time. I was planning to do something else
Yeah.
altogether, and it ended up doing it, and it kind of snowballed. And I think you're a great example of that, because my life's constantly evolving with creativity, and you are as well. It's like people hear
Yeah.
that you've done so much, and there's so much more to talk about as well. So,
I
which is
know.
great, It's great. It really is great. I'm pleased with you. Now, there's a couple of things I want to talk about next. Is I know you got a grant, didn't you? You told me before off mic about you as a disabled writer to bring a storytelling piece to the stage in relation to Unlimited. Now, tell us about that, because I think this is a good story. People should hear about this next anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So it's really hard being a disabled creative person. Not in terms of the creativity you create, but in terms of actually getting it out there, the relationships you have with people. The mainstream way of doing things is often just not viable. So for me, when my health goes down, I'm stuck in bed for 3 months. As soon as I'm out of sight, people forget about me. And it happens all the time. It happens everywhere. And it's kind of like a feature of the creative scene. So in some ways, it has a good side to it, but for someone like me, it makes it very difficult. And so Unlimited gave me a grant to produce a piece of work that I would then have as mine to do with as I wanted when I was able. And what I really wanted to do was create a storytelling piece. So it's like a 45-minute storytelling piece on stage. It's just a solo show, and and it's really beautiful. It really works, but it's like 90% of the way there, and it's ready for me to at some point say, okay, I'm ready to pick that up again now, complete it, and then start touring it. And it would be perfect for like a tour of libraries or anything like that. A lot of people would want it, I think. But it's just that the last 10% needs doing. And I need to know I'm well enough to commit to dates and tour it. So that was part of that. But even like, so with disability stuff, it's like part of it is that out of sight, out of mind. Even, I mean, not to put you on the spot here, but when you asked me to do this, you said, oh, I've been thinking about you for ages, and it's only seeing you in person that made me think, oh, let's fix a date. I didn't know you had me in mind at all. So for me, being out of sight means I don't get asked to do things.
No, that's point. It's a point. It's a
The
point,
best,
John. Sure. Point.
yeah, and you know, it's part of just how it works. So um, there's only so much you could change in the way things are done. So then, rather than trying to change how things are done out there, I change how I do things. So the best use of my time is not to submit work on spec or to enter competitions or to reply to ads or call outs or anything like that. My best use of my time is to do things by request, by invitation, to have someone recommend me for something, through conversations that I have with people, and through building long-term relationships. There are two organisations that I want to give a massive shout out to who do it really, really, really well. From the disability point of view, Frontline Dance are at the forefront of really good disability and accessibility in terms of their events. They're involved with Stoke Big Appetite Festival that me and Sean and Louise have done. And Helen Askoff, I don't know if you know her.
Don't know. There's a lot of people. Honestly, you get the say, Natasha. I meet so many people sometimes. You connect with you. I can't remember everyone's name, so I apologize.
Yeah, yeah, I think you know Sean Fallows.
I know Sean.
Exactly. So
I know, not Louise.
In Manchester, there's an organisation called Sheba Arts, and they are really, really good at building those kind of long-term connections. They are a female immigrant-led arts organisation. So they have asked me to do workshops in the past for them. I've just done a set for them, poetry workshops around. We were working with refugees from Swap Wigan, and I did a workshop on peace and a workshop on freedom. And again, you know, they just went really well. They support you really well. They help you network. They recommend you for things if they like you, to other people and so on. So they're just doing it really well in a way that works for me. So for me, it's about finding organisations where we have common goals, the same kind of ethos, a good rapport, and then building those connections in a longer way rather than sort of dipping into things where, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. Best way of doing that. I think you're right. You said like it's if you take a step backwards, sometimes people you can think people can forget about you. It's like I've had flare-ups of my own health before now because you know I'm diabetic myself, but like the podcasting always been good because it's always constantly evolving, meeting new people all the time. So I get you completely with that one. So straight away with that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is before we go on to what you got next, coming up next, because there is a quite bit of stuff coming up next. Is you were telling me before about transforming yourself through the barrel of a gun.
Barrel of a pen.
Barrel of a pen. Why wrote I gun down? Sorry, that's made me thinking a bit. Got my gangster head on there. Yeah, tell us about that. Transform yourself through the power of a pen. Sorry, that barrel of gun. God. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So I do one-off workshops or like short series of workshops where I see a need for something. I will do it. And so this was a workshop I did at Burning Woman Festival, and people found it life-changing. And the idea is that you can use your pen to rewrite your story. And so I taught them what I know about how to go about that, how to go from being the person you are to being the person you visualize yourself as. Because quite often, like, I mean, the theory of change and you kind of mull things over in your head, but then when you're ready to do it, how do you do it and how do you maintain it? And the maintaining part is really important. And so the whole workshop was based around how I transformed my life, because my name wasn't always Natasha Tingle. I was Rashida Tingle, and I was very unwell. My mental health had deteriorated so badly that I had planned to take my life. And my husband said to me, I want you to go away on your own, where you're not a mother, you're not a wife, you're not anything else. You don't have to worry about any of us. Just go and be you somewhere else. And the moment I left, sort of said goodbye to them all, left, everything changed. And it was really sudden. And it was not something I had done for myself. It was something that happened to me, really. And I just changed. I was a completely different person. I could tell straight away I was healthier. My mindset was completely different. I didn't think the same way. And to me, it was a spiritual thing. Some people discuss it as a mental health thing. Sort of, well, that's natural given the difficulties you face through your life, or whatever it is. But it doesn't really matter how it happened. The question is, how do you then maintain it? Because I don't want to go back to being another person. And so a lot of that came from me rewriting my own story and saying, okay, that's who I was. This is who I am. These are the things that help me remember the need for where I'm at. What do I still need to do to learn to be who I am now? And I feel like I'm only just coming into that place. You know, I've done a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of like lifestyle changing programs and different things to get to the point where I am who I am now, and able to stay that way and feel good and feel healthy. And my writing has reflected that, because initially my writing was very, very much about catharsis. And then I started to write about all the different things that you know, the thoughts that were in my head. Everything from, I've got a poem on advanced quantum physics. I've got a poem on Zelda, the video game. I've got a poem on Lindisfarne and the historical stuff. I also have a poem about what happens if you strap buttered toast to the back of a cat, because the cat will always land on its feet and the toast will always land butter side down. You know, anything that intrigues me, I write about. But more and more, I'm writing about, I'm giving voice to people whose voice needs amplifying, and I'm writing about things from a place of hope and a place of change. So.
No, perfect. I agree with you completely with that, because it's very, very similar path for myself. Because like you, I'm not gonna say how old you are. The best way to put it to you, right? But it was about the same time with me. My writing skills exploded, as it's happening to Amanda as well. Because she's a year older than you, if my memory's correct. And people can work that one out themselves. But yeah, you'd be like Natasha and myself. Like, I broke through in poetry, when I was 37, and I became diabetic 2.5 years later. And it took me then 4.5 years to first of all learn to deal with that, then know the direction my creativity is going to take me in about 2015. So it's been that way ever since myself. You do. It's sometimes say some people know it when they're in their early 20s, where the creativity is going to take them. It's yours is like mine, because it's come a bit later on. But because of your health, tell me if I'm wrong with this, it's made you more focused, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, because you have so much less time to do things with, you have to pick a thing and do that thing until you can't do it anymore, or until it's done. So yeah, it does make you a bit more focused.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, I think we better go on to next and to the third part of this top chat now. And this is going to be a lengthy one. People are wondering is what plot projects Natasha's got coming up, because you've got 4 different things here you told me about. 2 of these I didn't even know about, which is how abject my research can be sometimes.
Yeah.
But tell us first of all then about your bus station project.
Right. So, well, I don't know if I mentioned my book yet. So when I was going through this change, I wrote a poetry book, and that was the aim, was just to collect all my poetry together for my mum for her 70th birthday. But that book is still available through me. It's not available online, but you can get it through me. So there's a lot of poetry in that, and it's something that I did. But also, like right now, I'm involved with Headspace Bolton, which is a mental health arts charity, and I've been in the spoken word classes with Dave Viney for a number of years now, and we are putting together an anthology, and I am the main editor for that. So that's one of my projects at the moment. People have been submitting poetry. I've been doing a bit of editing and like making creative decisions about fonts and all that stuff. Yeah, you get the idea. So that's one thing. I am collaborating with a friend. I'm just finishing the first draft of a children's novel. She's going to be illustrating it, but she's also been helping me with the devising of it. So that's really exciting. Looking forward to getting that first draft done, and then starting to build the story up more and like add in, because at the moment it's like a narrative of characters' experiences, but then we need to actually make it more like a story, with challenges and and difficulties and all that stuff. I am working with my friend Bad Grandad, who is an incredible guitarist, and he's putting music to my poetry. The hope is to put together a fringe show, so a half-hour show of comedy, music, and poetry. We have worked on 3 poems so far, and they've all gone incredibly. People are, because like the poems that we've picked, the poems are up there, the music is up there, put them together and it blows people's minds,
Good, yeah, good.
So really enjoying
Good.
that.
Good. I think you do when it's the thing is like, I don't know if you ever saw me live. I had a band going with Jeffrey Armour and a lady called Petrova and Thalarian. We had a band called Means to End going to about what we spent about 8 years ago. And ours was the same, what I think you're going to do now, where poetry can be very grey or black and white if done by itself. So very heavy, hard hitting. But do you feel like now your friends putting some music to it, it's making it, like you said, making it go colour?
I think the music helps put the emotion in.
Yeah, it builds emotion. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So there are some, because with the poems, there are bits where the words alone just do not give you the complexity of emotion and scene setting that music can do, and that's where it really lifts it up. So yeah, I'm doing that. I have been writing a series. I've been doing this for a number of years now. It's 5 stories. Each one is, so it's fictionalized true stories from people I or my family have known, and they're all really hard-hitting, quite dramatic stories, put together into a collection. They're all different. One's a letter, one's hopeful, one's a poem, one's a narrative, one's a series of journal entries, and they're about things like being killed for the dowry in India. My dad's friend who lived through a war zone. We have someone we met who was a modern day slave in London. A friend of mine who took his own life, sadly, and the way he did it was very dramatic, and there was a lot that there was stuff that could have been done to help him. I myself was in a really bad state of mind at the time before that happened, and so part of writing it involves getting back into that headspace, which I've not really been in a good space to do, which is why I've had to shelve it for now. But so there's that. I think that's going to be just really, really impactful when it's done. So I'm looking forward to that. The most fun one, and this is something I've really been embracing, the playfulness and the quirkiness of things. That is, I am catching every bus from Wigan bus station each time with a different friend, and the two of us are then collaborating together to make something. So I've done a few so far. One was I wrote a poem on the day and my friend was a photographer and we took some photos. Another was my friend and I, we tried to go to this tea room that turned out to be someone's house. We decided that we were going to create a board game, because we're both board gamers, create a board game around the idea of a teleporting, time traveling tea room where you have to find source local ingredients and put up a menu and so on. You know, like little interns running around trying to get the job. So yeah, there's loads of different things going on for me, and I try and limit myself to the ones I can manage. But there are always future things that I'm like, but I really want to do that. A lot of the time when I want to do things, I jump straight in and I do them. So like we didn't talk about Inspire Aloud. With that, it started in the pandemic where I saw a need for something, which was the open mic poetry nights were very dry and you didn't really interact other than reading your poem, just because of the nature of Zoom. So I ran a group that was 8 people, so you could chat on Zoom and you share a poem, we talk, whatever conversation comes up, whether it's about the topic of the poem or feedback or just some other conversation, and then move on and go round. And so I started a group in person after that, called Inspire Aloud, and it was open to anybody who wrote anything, from novels to reporters to singer-songwriters to poetry to monologues and so on. And again, it was this idea that we come together socially, we sit in a room, we share in the round, we have conversations, and then we had like a little 15-minute, let's call it a headline spot. It wasn't really, it was more like a spotlight, where people could showcase whatever they wanted to showcase, or if they wanted to use that time to do something with the group or host a conversation, or, you know, that was then their time to do their thing. And it was brilliant. We had a really good time doing that. Unfortunately, my health killed it. And that's one of the difficulties, because the next thing that I really want to do and I really see a need for is going to be really difficult, because I can't just jump in. It's for people who write longer form things, so whether it's novel writing or you know, you want to write articles about things. The idea is to pair people up. You keep each other accountable. You're only really having to invest in one other person. You know, so you're meeting and you're sharing alternately. So I show you my chapter, you show me yours, I show you my next one, and so on. Working at their own pace. So you've got all these pairs of people dotted around doing this. And then that is in the context of a wider group, where any skills that somebody is lacking in, someone else can run a workshop on it and people can come and take part in that, and you can have socials so you feel like you're part of something bigger. You can get feedback from extra people. There's the potential for somebody to mentor a pair if they're a more experienced writer. So there's loads of scope in it. The problem is, you know, I can't just, like with anything else, I just like dive in and start. With this, if anyone's going to buy into this plan for a long form thing, there has to be a structure and there has to be some kind of paid system to keep it in place while it, you know, for that duration. to make sure that you know, things don't fizzle out. There's someone putting these people back into pairs if someone stops writing, or you know, and troubleshooting the problems, all that kind of stuff, you know, organizing the workshops. So
Wow.
that's my next big plan. But and I really do see a need for it, because I've talked to so many writers locally who are like, oh, if only I had someone who could keep me accountable. And I'm like, I can't do that one by one for everybody. I can do it for one or two people, but then there's a limit. And if this pairing up were like done in that way of kind of, yeah, you're a pair, but if something goes wrong, we can always give you a third person or give you a different pairing, and so on. And just keep people writing, because it's hard to write, especially if you've got a full-time job and you're trying to explore your creativity and you've got an idea for a novel. How hard is it to keep writing when there's no one else? You're just writing in a void. So that's my plan. But making it happen, that's another story.
Come back for part two another day, as I would say, definitely with that. Now, the
Yeah.
last question I want to ask you, Natasha, is before we go on to the hard sells, basically, where people get all your book and all your bits and pieces, is how do you sleep? You've got so much on the go. My head would be like that by the end of it. What this very spent half an hour telling us about.
I one of the reasons that I am as active as I am and have so many things going on is because, well, two reasons really. One is that I have spent so much of my life having to sleep. I have a chronic fatigue condition. So I have days, I can go to bed and wake up, go to bed one night, sleep through the night, the day, the night, and wake up the next morning. I feel like so much time has been taken away from me where I can't do anything. For a long time, I was bedbound. For years, I was wheelchair bound. You know, I have a lot of conditions. I have a lot of tablets. My mental health can swing wildly. My physical health can swing wildly. So when I am able, I want to be doing. The other thing is that in order to look after my own health, I've found that if I spend too much time on my own in my house, things go bad. So one of the reasons I am so busy is because I hate to be at a loose end. I need to be out there. I need to be, even if it's just like I'm going to the coffee shop and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do some writing. I'd rather that, or in the library, or Wigan, the main mall in Wigan, Grand Arcade, has a community corner where there are tables and chairs. It means I can buy a cheap drink and have a few snacks of my own. I don't have to buy a Coke to sit in a pub. You know, I can do whatever I want in that space and sit and do some writing with just like kids playing around me and people wandering about. I work best in that environment. So for me, doing all these things is part of being healthy and part of how I manage my fatigue and all of those things as well.
Brilliant. No, keep you being you what you are, Natasha, definitely. So I know that already. So every time I see you in person, you go, I've got this project on the go, and I'm thinking, I turn around and say to Amanda, she took another project on, but respect you, because it takes a lot of guts and energy to do what you're doing there. So keep doing it, please. So, right, give us a hard sell anyway. Just to obviously to clarify, people that get hold of your first book speak to you by the social media method as normal, because you could perhaps sort of copy out for them. If people want to get hold of you to chat to you further, anything discussed today, where do you recommend they go to contact you?
Okay, so I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I don't use it as much, but I do use it. You can contact me by email. I can give you all those details later, can I?
Yeah, perfect.
Like the actual, yeah. And you can also so I write a blog on WordPress. You can contact me. My book you can get through me. I sell it for £10 if you we can arrange a payment and posting it out. So there's lots of ways you can contact me if you're interested in young writers, if you've got a young person, or just if you want to contact me because you've got something interesting to do, or you want to come on one of my bus journeys, or whatever it is. I'm always happy to hear from people. Reach out to me.
Perfect. Sounds good to me then. Right. Well, we'll take a look at wrap up here then, because I think we're going to let Natasha get a good drink, and I will as well. And we're right back to everybody. 2 shakes of the dice with some of Natasha's fantastic poetry. Thank you again, Natasha. It's been a tremendous first half. This. Looking forward to part 2.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
See you in a moment, guys.